You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers! On this episode of On the Air with Florenza, we welcome debut novelist Glen Peters, author of the evocative and heartfelt novel Where the Nights Smell Like Bread. Set in the vibrant and chaotic streets of Calcutta, this coming-of-age story follows Mark Anello, a 34-year-old American teacher searching for direction after personal and professional upheaval. What begins as a chance to escape turns into a transformative journey of love, identity, and reconnection with a past he never fully understood. With lush descriptions, lyrical prose, and unforgettable characters, Peter's novel is a sensory exploration of belonging and second chances. Please put your hands together and welcome Glen to the show. Thank you so much, Glen, for joining me on this episode of On the Air with Florenza. Well, we are going to talk about your debut novel, Where the Nights Smell Like Bread. And listen, I am so excited to get into your book. But before we do, as is my tradition, we are going to toast to an amazing show. And I've got a little, I don't know, something going on red. I just grabbed a bottle and poured. And okay. Is
Lemonade.
that's lemonade?
That's lemonade. Yeah.
Why does it look like milk?
I don't know.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Mm, that is the whitest looking lemonade I've seen,
Yeah,
but
I
we're
know.
gonna roll with it.
I don't know what to say.
And by live, okay, roll with that, roll with that. So we're gonna dive right in to talk about your newest book, Where the Nights Smell Like Bread. And I have some questions that are going to lead up to us doing a deep dive in the book. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. If you were stranded in Rome with only three things in your backpack, what would they be? And be honest, how many of them would be snacks?
Snacks.
Yes.
Well, none of them would be snacks because you
Okay.
don't have to carry around snacks with you in Rome.
This is
Every
true.
street corner has like about 1,000 places you can buy something to eat. And nothing I'm going to carry around in my pocket's going to taste as good as something I can buy. So no snacks. What would I take? I don't know. My phone. Look,
Hmm.
you got to have a phone today. Probably take my some money. These are boring answers, but the other thing, sunglasses. It's cool. If you're in Rome, you got to wear sunglasses. I mean, you got to be cool. I don't care if it's nighttime, cloudy weather, hurricanes. The sunglasses go on in Rome
They
because you
do.
got to be cool like the Romans.
You
You
absolutely
know?
do.
Yeah. Now the
Rome was,
problem with sunglasses is you have to wear narrow pants, uh,
yes.
and sometimes they get smashed when you cram them in your. So anyway, but those are the three things.
Good answer. Good answer. Definitely you need the shades there. I've only been, I think I've only been once, may have been twice, um, to Rome and enjoyed it very much. Now, you write with such vivid description. Have you ever walked into a bakery just for the smell and walked out with six loaves and no regrets?
All the time. You kidding? Especially in Rome. No, no, look, I have a sweet tooth. It's really a problem with me. I cannot pass up a cupcake, much less an Italian pastry.
Uh-huh.
Look, they're all incredible, and I just eat them, can I say? So no. When it comes to that kind of will pet, it's gone. But the nice thing, if we're talking about Rome or any place in Italy, is you walk all the time.
Yes, you do.
So, you're going to eat your way through the city, but you're going to be walking and climbing stairs.
Yes.
So, it works. It
Yes, you
works.
really do. You work it off. You work it
You
off. So
work it
just
off.
enjoy.
Yeah,
Just enjoy. Now, your main character, Mark, if he
right.
was invited to a dinner party with his art world friends, Who would you not want to sit next to you and why?
His art world friends. Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of people that he hangs out with that I would not like to sit next to. Probably uh, Carlos.
Okay.
Carlos. That would be Marina's Spanish boyfriend. He's a
Mm,
creepy character.
hmm
Yeah, he's creepy. I got creeped out just creating him, because you pull parts of yourself out to create these characters, and I didn't like him.
Did you find yourself sleeping with the light on when you were writing, Carlos?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Now, speaking of Carlos, and I know we haven't yet really did a deep dive, do you see Carlos bringing a story of his own to life and one day just becoming a main character for something else or parts of him
Good
becoming a
question.
character?
Good question. That's a really good question. Maybe.
Mm,
Here's about let me say something in general about the characters in Bread. I wanted every character to be a hero.
hmm
I wanted every character to have some element of the hero
Now,
in them.
what's your guilty pleasure when writing late into the nights? I'm going to give you some options: cheesy 80s music, vintage wine, or Googling villas, which you may or may not purchase.
Which was the third one?
Googling villas, which you may
Oh,
or may
Google
not
Villas.
purchase.
Good. Yeah, well, that sounds good to me. Yeah. I do like to do that and sort of fantasize about having one. Although I do have a house in Italy. I bought one.
Oh,
It's a little
nice.
house. It's a farmhouse in Umbria, and that's my go-to place when I write. I love it.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
yeah, that's
Maybe
what I
that
do.
can be a little location for us other writers. Not that we would write
Hey,
anything about Italy, just so we can go and hang out.
writer's retreat in Umbria. Yeah, yeah,
That would be fantastic.
yeah.
Let me know when you plan on doing that.
Okay, but Florenza, I don't write late at night. My write time is early, early in the morning,
Oh, nice.
and I'll tell you why. Because when I wake up,
hmm
I'll swallow a quick cup of coffee. Maybe I'll do a few exercises. Then I sit down and I write. And that's a very powerful time of day for me because it draws on my subconscious.
hmm
I'm close to my dreams.
Yeah,
I'm close to kind of a creative source
yeah,
that vanishes
yeah,
as the day goes on and you get wrapped up in the business of the day.
yeah,
So that's my time for writing. I get my best stuff done
yeah.
early in the morning, at least in terms of creating characters,
hmm
plotting a book, walking through the book. The editing and all the rest can come
Yeah,
anytime.
yeah,
But morning is the creative time for me. Yeah.
yeah.
You probably
Sh-
know that too as an
Yeah,
author.
you know what? Surprisingly, m- my inspiration will come in dreams. I Most of my books were created due to dreams, either night
Yeah.
dreams or daydreams. But that real creative burst for me comes in the shower. There
Yeah.
is something about being in a
So
shower.
annoying, isn't it?
I'm trying
So
to wash
annoying.
body parts and I'm hearing, and then you got to jump out and I'm covered in soap and shampoo and I'm looking for something to
It's
write on.
like,
It's like,
couldn't it wait?
could you not wait? No, and I feel like, I've got these peepholes in my bathroom of characters, that are looking in and they're like, is she wet yet? Is she wet yet? All right, she is. Bombard.
I'll jump out. If it's a good enough idea, I got my phone. I jump out and I talk into my phone and throw it down and then get back in.
So you understand
I understand. Yeah.
something
Yeah.
about that water.
Yeah.
Now, as you said, you do travel across Europe through your writings as well as in real life. Um, which would be your favorite location to choose other than where you already own? Wine in Tuscany, tapas in Madrid, or cappuccino in a quiet Roman cafe?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. I'd have to say wine in Tuscany, but
hmm
let's say wine in Umbria because Umbria is right next door to Tuscany, Umbria, where I live, and they
Uh-huh.
have the most incredible wine. In fact, I live in the midst of grapevines. The neighbors come out and they pick the grapes, and then they take them to the local frantoio, where they're made into wine. And it is the most incredible wine you've ever had. And they don't even have names for it sometimes. You go to this village and, oh, yeah, it's the red wine here.
Yeah,
And you go to that village. Oh, it's the lady down the street. You know, well, what is it? It's wine.
it's wine.
Vino rosso, no lo so.
Vino is vino.
But I mean, it's just such a natural part of life there, wine. And it's so healthy. I mean, it
Yes.
really is. You drink it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
You drink it with food, you drink it over conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd go for the wine
Yeah.
for
And it
sure.
it makes you slow down
Yeah,
and appreciate, just like you said, the conversation. So you're appreciating people, you're appreciating that connection, you're thinking more about the foods that you're eating, and
absolutely.
it's not that rush that we seem to have,
Nope.
in our
Different.
part of the world. It's just eat to get moving, but it's no eat for enjoyment.
Yeah. My nickname when I first went to Italy and I was getting to know people and learning the language, my nickname was orologico, the clock, because I was always looking at the time, and if I was on my way to the post office and somebody wanted to stop, I was always, okay, adobo, see you later.
Yeah.
And my neighbor said, no, you don't do that. You
Yeah.
you take the time to
Yeah.
to to speak to people here. So I had to just dial it down,
Yep.
take a deep breath,
Yep.
even if I had to take a pee
Yeah.
and chat with
From all
someone.
that wine.
I mean, you just do that. You just learn to adjust, and it's
Yeah.
very good for you.
Yeah.
I'm much more mellow
Hmm.
having come back now. And that's something that directly came to me from being in that other culture where people get stuff done.
So, diving right into bread, I love the full title, Nights Smell Like Bread. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I first read the title, my little Gemini perverted mind went all the way back to, what do I do that smells like bread? And is it something that I would want to write about? Because I would be pointing somebody to some hygiene products.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Well, I tell you, I that was not my idea for a title. I had several titles that I ran by my publisher, Ian, and he liked that one the best.
Yeah.
And
Because it's
he
so
said,
provocative. And he is such a provocative person.
well, he said it's poetic, and and you say it in the text, and it's always nice to bring something in. My concern was that it made it sound like a cookbook. And he
Oh.
said, no, no, we're gonna, and he chose the font
Uh huh.
for the cover that relayed the message that no, this was not a cookbook.
Uh huh.
This was kind of a sophisticated story, a psychological story about a foreign place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I give him credit for that title. The original title was Everything Is Mine, because if you remember, the old lady in the palazzo goes, Everything is
Everything
mine,
is.
tutto il mio. And then another book came out at exactly the same time called Everything Is Mine. And then I did a little title search, and they're like a billion.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, no, no, let's go with that title. So yeah, that's where the title came from. I like it. People, it's always brought up in
Mm-hmm.
conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's a good thing,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Anytime
People
you
want to
can
know
be
what it is.
creative enough and unique enough that people are talking about it, you can't
Yeah.
go wrong.
No, no, you can't.
Although, like I said in the beginning, I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, I love it. Why not? Whatever you take.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Mark and
Yeah.
the emotional journey that he has. And just really the best way to describe it is just full on raw vulnerability, from his heartbreak in LA to his self discovery in Rome. How much of his story is inspired by either your own experiences, travels, or relationships, or those of individuals who are close to you?
Great question. Mark has a lot of walls.
Hmm.
He gets so close and something happens. And he prefers to have relationships in quantity rather than quality, because that's an assurance that should one fail, another one is available. And that's Mark's strange MO. I take a bit of that from my own experience, certainly early attachment issues with family. It sort of affected me, I think, and it took me a while to first of all recognize that,
Hmm.
and then to recognize that in action. in a dynamic that was developing between myself and someone I wanted very much to be close to, or
Uh-huh.
someone who was in love with me and I wanted to love back.
Yeah.
So I could pull on that psychological material very easily. Now, Mark doesn't handle it as well as I did.
Uh-huh.
Mark is 30 something, when I began dealing with this, I was in my 40s and 50s.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So I wanted to make Mark a bit clueless, a bit lacking insight. Other people have it about
Uh-huh.
him, but he doesn't have it for himself. So I wanted to create a character who's kind of
Hmm.
stuck in a place I was stuck in, without the insight. And the insight comes through these shifts, which are
Yeah.
somehow dramatic for
Yeah.
him. They're shifts. They shock him.
Hmm.
They shock him into feeling. And I think that was the idea behind Mark.
And so Alessandro, did I pronounce his name correctly?
Uh-huh.
Alessandro. So is compelling, at minimum compelling.
Everybody loves him, yeah.
Yes. How did he come to life for you? And tell me, what did you feel when that character just started like invading your senses and saying, "Hey, I'm here."
Another great question. That character of Alessandro's a composite of several men I knew in Italy. And the thing about Alessandro is the entire first chapter of Bread, which is very long, began as a short story, a long short story, and it was all about the relationship of Mark and Alessandro, with the final line, "That's the way the cookie crumbles." That was the entire short story. But that character, Alessandro, cried out. He almost said, "Give me another chance."
Yeah.
So he forced me to sit down and open this short story up and turn it into a novel.
Nice.
So that Alessandro, whoever he was, and as I say, he was many different people, including myself,
Uh-huh.
of course, when we close up, when we're always ironic.
Yeah.
We were not able to make an authentic connection with someone. And
Yeah.
when we have trauma, we have something that's really damaging us that
Hmm.
we can't quite access. So I wanted the story to open up so I could explore that with him. And then the other characters just kind of crept in as a counterbalance to him and as characters who would be useful to Mark. It's a character-driven
Yes.
novel. And
Yes.
Florenza, not to go off subject, but when I wrote this book, it was almost as if these characters were telling me their story. I
Yes.
had an idea of where I wanted the book to go,
Hmm.
but I basically let the characters loose. And when I sat down to write sometimes, I had no idea
Yeah.
where they were going to take me, and I just let them lead.
Yeah.
I'd have to pull them back here and there and say, no, that's another book. But in general, I let them lead. And it was like it was the most when I really had my peak moments, my flow,
Uh-huh.
it's because the characters were telling me a story. I,
Yeah.
I was just taking it down. And
Yeah.
again, as an author, that happens, right? You're
Yeah.
taking it down.
Now, once you started writing, did you feel like the words, the characters, the scenes were already embedded in you some type of way, and that once you agreed to become a conduit of the story, that it just kind of erupted, right? Like you didn't have to
Yes,
create it. It was always a part of you, and you just gave the story a safe space to
exactly right.
evolve.
Exactly right. And the characters had to trust me.
Yes.
I trusted the characters, but I had to say to them, I love you. No matter
Yes.
who you are or what you've done, I love you. You have to love. I mean, wasn't it Tolstoy who
Yeah.
said, love your characters,
Yes.
love them. Even when you're writing about something hurtful,
Yes.
love your characters. And that
Yes.
is such an incredible prescriptive
Yeah.
for good
Now,
writing.
the book itself blends humor, heartbreak, travel, mystery all into one. Did you have a challenge in bringing so many different aspects together, or did you find it just flowed naturally
It
for you?
just flowed. It flowed. Yeah. Yeah. Every story has elements of all of those things.
Hmm.
And it depends on what you want to bring out.
Hmm.
And you bring something out, then you push it away. You bring something out and you push it away. When it got too heavy, I wanted things to be funny.
Yeah.
The bathhouse scene,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's funny. It's
Yeah.
funny. It comes in a really,
Also, in the book, you beautifully depict the contrast between old world elegance and modern chaos.
Mm.
How did setting the story in Rome, Madrid, and Switzerland influence the arc of Mark's transformation?
Oh, wow. Again, good question. I don't know if I've ever thought of that one. How did it influence? Well, I think one of the most enjoyable and odd experiences I had in Italy was touring a palazzo.
Mm.
And of course, there was no old lady aristocrat touring it. It was a young nephew but he took us through this absolutely amazing house. Um, and I just thought to myself, how in the world could anybody live in a place like this? Artwork everywhere, every bit of it priceless.
Uh-huh.
Um, it was just astonishing to me because it was so different from anything I've ever experienced before in this country. I mean, we have our old money, but we don't have that.
Yeah.
You don't have someone whose family goes back 900 years to one of the popes.
Right,
So
right.
that alone, that episode almost became its own little story within the story because it was such an astonishing thing. But of course I created the character, the old lady.
Right, right.
Um, and Madrid is such a wild, sensuous place. Everything is exuberant.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Italy, people say that about Italy, but Italy tends to be a bit reserved. In Spain,
Oh,
uh-uh.
yeah.
They pull it out. New Year's Eve or the Tres Noches, they're wild in the streets.
Uh-huh.
And I was in Madrid. That whole story about New Year's Eve is true. I was there in 2019. I caught COVID in 2019 before anybody knew what
In
it was
Madrid.
in Madrid because we were in the Puerta del Sol, and there must have been 5,000 people there kissing one. I mean, you're kissing
Uh-huh.
strangers.
Yes.
They just kiss you. I mean, I don't want you. Too late. Nine people are kissing you. So
Uh-huh.
Spain was a crazy place to party and to get sick.
Uh-huh.
It was just crazy.
Uh-huh.
And then Basel was the absolute antithesis of Spain. Basel is orderly and strict. The streets are straight. The trams are on time.
Yeah.
People don't make eye contact.
Uh-huh.
So it was an odd place. The perfect place for Alessandro to have his crisis because it
Uh-huh.
does not suit his personality at all.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know. I guess the places became characters as well. They
Yeah.
they became like secondary. Where we are affects how we behave. As much as
100%.
we
Yeah.
as much as we try to think we're the same people, we're really not,
Yeah.
you know? So
Nice.
yeah.
Reviewers have praised the dialogue for its crispness and realism. How did you approach writing conversations that feel both natural and emotionally revealing?
Um, I have a good ear.
Mm.
I think that's it. I have a good, when I was a little boy, I lived in a German neighborhood, Yorkville, New York City, and I began speaking German at 3 years old. And when I was with my relatives as a kid, my Italian nonnas and so forth, I would imitate their English because it was so hilarious.
Uh-huh.
And they would think it was beautiful. So I always had this ear for sound,
Mm-hmm.
for mimicry. So when I create a character, the voice just comes to me. Alessandro has a limited, he's speaking in English most of
Yeah.
the time, so he makes these strange inversions.
Uh-huh.
We go home and we cook ourselves for dinner. That's the kind of thing you hear. So that came easily. I had
Uh-huh.
that in my ear. Um, and I don't know, I just had the voice of the character in my ear. I drew from something,
Uh-huh.
voices I'd heard in the past or my own imagination. I don't know. It's a deep and mysterious well, but none of this was difficult, Florenza. None of it.
That's
It's all
beautiful.
there, you
Yeah,
know?
that's so beautiful to hear. And I believe
Yeah,
that adds to the authenticity of it as well because it was already a part of your being either through growing up or just your experiences. And so you're able to tap into those wells beautifully.
right.
Now, Mark's found family, his circle of friends and chosen companions, adds such richness. Why was it important for you to explore the theme of chosen families in our now post pandemic world?
Why was it important?
Mm-hmm.
I think we choose our family.
Yeah.
I think that's a natural state of growing older. We choose our family. First of all, our biological family. In
Mm-hmm.
case of me,
Mm-hmm.
they're older and they're not going to be around. So you just form new attachments. People who are more, they get you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's odd that our birth families very often, or maybe too often, just don't get us,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing to find people who do.
Yeah.
Mark loves his mom. His mom loves him. He's got this odd relationship with his brother. They do their best, but he's a different animal from,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they struggle with that, and he struggles with their struggling with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's away from their orbit, he's free,
Yeah.
and yet he wants to be close to them, and he does in the end. He does. Um, so yeah, I mean, your birth family is going to factor. It's foundational.
Mm-hmm.
And then overlay that with your family of choice and why these people are your family of choice.
Yeah.
Why? What do they give me
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't get from my birth
Mm-hmm.
family? You
Or
know?
what do they receive from me that the others won't accept?
Exactly.
Because it is
Exactly.
that too. Sometimes we need those people that will receive our gifts as well as pour into us. And so that's so important. Now, you've been compared to, and I need to read this, you've been compared to literary greats like Henry James and praised for your lyrical, painterly prose. What authors or works have most influenced your style,
Wow,
if any?
I haven't read these reviews. That's
I
nice,
have my
dear.
sources.
Okay. What writers do I like? Um, Well, it's going to be a surprise. I like Cormac McCarthy, who
Okay.
seems like a writer very different from what I do, but I like his spareness. He teaches me economy. He teaches me
Mm,
not to overuse punctuation.
mm,
He teaches me about creating a kind of draconian literary landscape, which he then populates with very strange people who stand out in relief. Beautifully done, you know. All the Pretty Horses, absolutely magnificent. Uh, um, who else do I like? I mentioned Douglas Stewart,
mm-hmm.
terrific writer, amazingly funny too. Who else? Um, oh gosh, um, Alice Walker, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, I have to say, when it comes to poetry, Amanda Gorman,
Isn't
I,
she
I
phenomenal?
think she's wonderful. She's so authentic. She completely strips away the pretense and the
Yes.
artifice that's become such a part of, the kind of the MFA camp of
Yeah.
poetry these
Mm-hmm.
days. She's
Mm-hmm.
so pure.
Mm-hmm.
I love her. And she's
Yeah.
got this great presence and elegance as a poet. And her youth
Yes.
is just gorgeous. Everything about her
Yes.
is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So, it's odd. I like Picano. I like Armistead Maupin. He's sort of like the O. Henry of
Uh-huh.
the gay world. I don't mean that. I mean, he's a wonderful
Right.
writer. Tales
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
City.
Yeah.
It's like I wanted to live on Barbary Lane.
Uh-huh.
I love Faulkner.
Yeah.
Faulkner is a spooky writer.
Yeah.
His world is spooky.
Yeah.
Um, I love James Baldwin. I have to take him in small doses. He's too
Yes.
intense for me,
Yeah, he's
you
too
know.
intense for a lot of people. I have an entire section I have a full library here, and yeah, you got to take those little doses.
He's a writer I think who had a very difficult struggle between anger and
Yeah.
love,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that struggle, but it's wearing sometimes,
Yeah.
even though the writing is terrific.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that's my short list. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Now, tell us what you hope the reader walks away with, either in thought or mindset or the overall experience having read Bread.
What I like to hear most from a reader, it just delights me, is I just really loved your book.
Yeah.
It was a great read. That's what I like to hear. I want to, I'm a storyteller. I'm not interested in experimenting, doing anything crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, I want to tell stories, interesting stories,
Mhm.
but stories. And when I get into bed at night and read, because that's when I read, I'm in
Uh-huh.
bed. I've got the lamp on, I read. It's my time, you
Uh-huh.
know? I want story. I
Yeah.
crave a story. So that honestly is my bottom line. I want somebody to say, I loved your book. I was so involved in it. I lived in the characters. I lived in the setting. I was sad when it was over. That's what I like to hear because when I write, I don't think about who's going to read it. I'm just sort of writing it.
Yes.
So to learn after the fact that I've connected is such, it's just such a delight.
Oh,
It really is. Yeah.
wonderful. Tell us some of the um, endeavors that you do with young writers, and also tell us about your poetry.
Well, my poetry, I've been writing poetry a long time, probably at least 30 years. I also, yeah, I have to tell you, I have a book list. I've written like 28 books for kids, science and math books, not textbooks,
Yes.
but trade books. So I do have a book. I've been writing a long time. When I retired, I wanted to concentrate on my poetry again
Okay.
and write fiction. So that was my time to just do the kind of writing I wanted to do. So I exploded writing poetry the first year after my retirement. I just had so many poems that I had, worked and then abandoned. And so I just put all of this time in, and it was right in the middle of COVID. So I joined all of these Zoom groups, wonderful ones. There was
Uh-huh.
one in Norwalk, Connecticut, another one in Stamford, Connecticut, a couple out here, where we would all just post poems on Zoom, and it was delightful. It was so. I mean, COVID was a terrible thing, but this was a golden period
Yeah.
for me, being at
Yeah.
home and having nothing much to do but write poetry every week that I would share with my. So that's where the poetry took off. Now, I've backed away from it a little bit. I've had lots and lots of things published by this time. I still haven't had a chapbook or a full book of poetry published. I want that. That's my next milestone.
Yeah.
So I'm working on getting someone to publish a full book of my poems.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so that's in the works. The other thing is I have several more novels ideas. One I'm just polishing now, which is kind of a mixed genre piece.
Okay.
Three different big stories connected together, a bit a bit of the fantastic, a bit of the kind of thriller,
Ooh.
kind of a mixed genre work, and I'm hoping that's going to come out fairly soon.
Okay.
Other than that, we'll see about making night where the nights smell like bread, where the nights smell like French toast. I don't know. A
Ooh,
French
a
version.
little maple syrupy.
Yeah, a little maple syrup. Yeah, so yeah, I look, as long as I can do it, I'm going to be writing because it's my joy. It's my life.
I would be upset if you stopped. Listen, that would be I would start that march. Um, so we've come to the part of our show that I have rebranded, and it is now called Last Call. It is a series of rapid fire questions designed just for us to have a little more fun because I think this has been exciting thus far. And some of them are questions that you have to just answer, or some are choices. And I never know, even though I create them, I never know what you're going to get. I am such a Gemini. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What poem of yours feels most like you?
Gosh, God, there's so many. Uh, oh, gosh. I would have to say, um, Letter to My Daughter in 2038.
Oh, okay. I'm going to
It's a
have to go
letter.
check
It's a
that one
it's a
out.
letter I after my death. It's a letter. I would have to say I reveal a good deal of myself in that letter. And
Oh,
don't ask any more questions because that's a complicated one to go
I'm
into.
not, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
I'm writing down that we're going to have a whole show of nothing but that.
yeah.
Truth or hope? What hits the page first?
Hope.
Mm,
Hope is the future.
yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah.
that. If you could leave behind one poem or one act of kindness, what would it be?
One poem or one act of kindness. Wow, boy. They're hard questions. One act of kindness. I think I would like to launch another writer. That would
Oh,
be my act of kindness. I would like to do if I really saw someone with talent and promise, I would do what I can do to get that writer on the map. Even though I'm not really on the map,
oh,
but just in terms of, do this, contact this person, make sure your drafts are solid. That's the act of kindness.
oh, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. Well, that is a great place to stop. Just with that nice thought, that just feels good. Anything I say after that would just spoil the moment. I like that.
I'm glad.
Well, listen, this has been so much fun. Thank you
No,
for
it's been
joining
fun. It's
me.
really been great. You are great.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.